Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about the importance of belly breathing in meditation. So belly breathing in meditation is really important. And what we're talking about when we're talking about belly breathing is diaphragmatic breathing. So that means that our diaphragm, when we normally breathe, so when we breathe in, the diaphragm, which is below the lungs, actually drops down and we take a breath in. And that so allows the space in the lungs. When we're exhaling, the diaphragm pushes up and then it pushes out air through our lungs. Now, our thoracic cavity, our rib cage also has a play in it. But what often happens with people who get into what they call upper chest breathing or chest only breathing is that their diaphragm ends up not moving very much, right? And it could be for a variety of reasons. A lot of it has to do with being sedentary, right? So you're not open enough in your physical structure to allow your diaphragm to go down. Consequently, people breathe very shallowly through the top of their, the upper part of their lungs only fills up with air. And so you don't get this good air circulation and you can't bring in as much oxygen. So, in cases where you're, need to do meditation, you need to be able to develop the ability to take a belly breath, this opening up, allowing the diaphragm to drop down, creating more space in the lungs and hence a more fulsome breath, what is often called yogic breathing, right? Now, we don't want to breathe so much that our lungs are super overinflated, right? Because that's not the point. But the point is to allow as much air in as possible. And then when we're exhaling, that the diaphragm pushing up and allowing the air to come out. So you don't just have stale air that is sort of trapped, that doesn't get circulated, right? So belly breathing is really important. And in meditation, one of the primary aspects of meditation that makes meditation really work is intentional breathing. And by intentional breathing, it's, intentional breathing applies to things like Kriya Yoga or any kind of pranayama, which is a breath kind of technique, right? It's one of the biggest things to give you leverage to get into a meditative state is this intentional breathing. Now at Modern Kriya, our website modernkriya.com, we teach Kriya Yoga, and we also teach to the public heart rate variability resonance breathing, which is distilled from Kriya Yoga. It's a really like a layman's version of Kriya Yoga, if you will. It brings in some of the elements that make Kriya Yoga work. So by doing this intentional breathing. And people, even in Kriya Yoga and in other paths where they do kind of pranayama, some kind of breath technique to get into meditation, and one of the things that they often miss is the belly breath, the diaphragmatic breath. And there could be a variety of reasons for this, but often people have a lot of tension in their solar plexus area, and that is where the diaphragm is. The line of the rib cage is sort of where the diaphragm sits inside the body cavity. And often people just sort of are very contracted there, and consequently their diaphragm can be sort of sticky. It doesn't go down gently, like in a belly breath of a child, right? So if you watch a young child breathing, you see a big belly breathing, right? They're not worried about trying to contract in and tighten their abs so that they don't look like they're obese, right? They're open fully in their abdomen, and their diaphragm is dropping down and their lungs are filling with air, right? So it makes for this full breath. And children are very kind of permeable in that way, right? They have this open vibrance to them, and part of it is reflected in the way that they breathe. So because many of us, as we start to get into, into adulthood and so on, we get this contraction in our abdomen, and it affects the ability to breathe. The diaphragm's not dropping down as much, and we're breathing more shallow and consequently restricted. Now, when you want to breathe fulsome in meditation, you can't because your diaphragm is stuck, right? So one of the things that you can do, and this is from a Taoist internal alchemy massage technique, Qine Sang, where you actually you can take your fingers and you can put like the two middle or the two inner fingers together, and then you start to put them just below your where your rib cage is, your solar plexus area. And if you start to gently explore, and you're going to make sort of gentle circles, right? Sort of into your rib, just below your rib cage and sort of underneath it. And that's where the diaphragm sits. And if you just relax your abdomen, right? And then you can just start to do little circles along the edges there. That's where the diaphragm is. You're starting to massage it. So you're just allowing it to relax And you can work one side, you go back to the center where the solar plexus is, and then you could work down the other side, sort of just below the rib cage, kind of in. You can push in and gently, right, just allowing yourself to relax the abdomen area, and particularly the diaphragm. So you can do that for like a couple of minutes just to relax it, right? And then what you can do is you can do what we call ocean breathing. It's also called Mingmen breathing in Taoist internal alchemy. And what that is you're just standing in a comfortable position with your feet shoulder width apart, a soft bend in your knees, and you want to start inhaling as you gently rock forward. You're shifting your weight to the balls of the toes, taking a belly breath. So breath from your abdomen, allowing your belly to expand, right? Just opening up. And you can also have your arms coming out too. And as you exhale, you shift your weight back onto your heels, right? So you're inhaling, you're shifting forward, opening up the belly, right? Relaxing the diaphragm, allowing it to drop, allowing the air to come into the lungs, right? And you exhale, shifting back. And if you do this process for a few minutes and you just are relaxing, being intentional and allowing your abdomen to relax, you will start to get that fulsome belly breath, right? And it's just this gentle breathing, this gentle rhythmic breathing of like you're opening like a big ball, right? Your big ball being your abdomen, and then exhaling and then just allow it to gently settle, to gently contract. And if you do that for a number of minutes, you will start to find that your diaphragm and your lower abdomen area is starting to relax, and you'll be able to take a longer breath because you're allowing your lungs to fill up as the diaphragm pushes downwards. And this open breath, this belly breath, right? So it's a real key in meditation. And, I've talked to many people even who do Kriya Yoga, right? Which is interesting enough because you would think these guys are the breath experts. But actually, a lot of people have problems with breathing, right? And it is because they have this tension in the diaphragm area, in the lower abdomen area, so the solar plexus. And it could be for a variety of reasons, right? But if you do that gentle massage, if you relax it, if you practice that ocean breathing, that Mingmen breathing, that gentle belly breathing, and just be aware of relaxing that part, you will start to get more open. And people who struggle with Kriya Yoga, it's often because their diaphragm is too constricted. And the thing about when you drop your diaphragm down, what happens is it creates a vacuum in your lungs, right? So basically it makes space where there is no air. And that means air is sucked in from the outside into your lungs, right? So the diaphragm, you're creating this negative pressure of pushing the diaphragm down and allowing the air passage to be open, and air will be drawn in, right? So and that is a real secret with Kriya Yoga and other kind of intentional breath meditation techniques, is that you need to make the space for the air to flow in. A lot of people, what they'll do is they have the contraction, they have this subconscious contraction in their diaphragm, so it's not allowing it to go down, and they try and suck in air either through their throat or some other part of their body, like within the air apparatus, right? But not the diaphragm, and consequently they can strain. So I've had students where like my throat hurts when I do a Kriya Yoga, and I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing? Are you relaxing your diaphragm? Are you allowing your diaphragm to drop down so it creates a negative pressure so the air is naturally drawn into your lungs? Oh, let me try that. Well, they try it out and it works, right? So the problem is not about the breath techniques so far as the tension in the diaphragm, which needs to be relaxed, pushed down so you create the airspace. So that's a really important thing. And a lot of people, like most, any kind of meditation techniques, meditation practices that I've encountered, with the exception of Taoist internal alchemy, haven't addressed this issue, which is really funny from my perspective, because it's so central in Taoist internal alchemy and Qigong practices that you learn how to use your diaphragm, right? You get this belly breath. So it's a very fundamental practice that's so important to learn, to drop your diaphragm, to open up the belly, to do the belly breathing, so you can allow the proper intentional breathing, which will bring you into deep meditation, right? Because as we know, this sort of deep, slow breathing, like heart rate variability, resonance breathing, and Kriya Yoga, has a direct effect on your parasympathetic nervous system, and it brings you into this internalized state, what we call pratyahara in yoga, right? So it's so effective for that. And if you don't have a open diaphragmatic breath, you will have trouble with it. So this is really, really fundamental. So really recommend that you experiment experiment with this, that you try it out. And then if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkorea.com. Also check our website at modernkorea.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.